Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about how Batman the Caped Crusader has a really odd color palette. So, when Bruce Timm announced he was doing this, he said this is going to be more Batman the Animated Series than Batman the Animated Series. I got kind of worried because lately he's been on this whole, really dark grittiness with his animated movies, pushing the whole Batgirl Batman thing, like as much violence as possible. So I was a little worried and stuff. But then I remember, the man can cook and everything. Like that whole short he made called Batman, I think Strange Days or whatever, was amazing. And so when I watched the first episode of this, I just don't like the animation. I don't like the movement of the animation because it looks cheap. It looks almost like Flash animation, which a lot of cartoons, both DC and Marvel, and a lot of their animated movies have been using that really cheap Flash type animation where the movement is very stagnated. It's very, very cheap and fast to make, and it looks very lazy. But that's not just it. I also don't like the color palette. This is supposed to be a more grounded noir type series, and it's really, really colorful. Like it's super bright, it's super colorful. It's kind of a combination of like Batman the animated series and New Adventures and Justice League, but mostly Justice League because Justice League was very bright. But this is supposed to be a noir type thing, more dark, more gritty, more mysterious. It should have that mysterious vibe. This bright color palette just does not work for that. It doesn't work for that at all for me. It's just I'm thinking it should be a bright, happy, colorful type series, like whatchamacallit, like Justice League or something. Because Batman the animated series looked more noir-ish than this series and everything. And that's because it was drawn on black paper. It's because it was hand-drawn animation. And it's because they actually took their time to come up with some really cool looking designs. This will always be my go-to. Like Batman the animated series feels more like what Caped Crusader should be like. However, that animated short that I told you about, I assumed it was gonna look like that because when you look at that with that grayish kind of muted gold yellowish type of look, that fog that's all around, that screams noir to me. And I was excited. I think to myself, oh, it's gonna look like that. Even Batman design is very similar to this. But in the Strange Days, he's more beefier. Here, he's more slender and almost he's so 2D looking and everything in Caped Crusader. But this is what Caped Crusader should have looked like with its color palette. Now I'm gonna show you some examples of what changing the color palette would do to make it feel more mysterious and noirish and stuff. So at first I'll give you the regular colorful design, and I'll give you the design I did in Photoshop where I made it kind of grayish. I added some yellow, some red, some blues to it, and it just has a completely different vibe. Like you can see that changing the color palette gives the entire screen its own character, its own personality, its own like mysterious feel to it and everything. Like you feel like you've been put in a different reality as opposed to that very brightly colored one. And because this is what most noir type stuff is. It's either black and white grays or it's like very, very muted and stuff. And when they go forward with season two, I hope to God they go back to the drawing board and change up the color palette. It is way too bright, and these lines are way too clean. Like the thing about Batman the animated series is that it had the dust and the from like the atmosphere, just falling down on the camera lens. It had the grain to it because of the film. This is all digital and everything. They even added digital grain, which looks cheap and fake. It doesn't have that feeling and texture to it. But when you do change the color palette up, it just has a whole new meaning to it, a whole new life. Like you really feel like it's dark and it's grittier and stuff. And he really should have done that. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.